Thank you. And today we're joined by CEO of Unified 360, Kate Hardiman, and myself, Rachel Worsley at Neurodiversity Media, to tackle the question, which is a good question, very interesting question. The question is, how do ND job seekers find companies that are neurodivergent friendly? Kate, I'll throw it to you. It's a very big question to unpack, isn't it?
It's a huge one, Rachel, and the job seeking landscape in Australia can be a really challenging one for NDers. They are often facing stigma and misunderstanding in the workplace and during the hiring process as well. And that can lead to a lot of biases coming up in recruitment, which makes it harder for them to land a job. And yes, awareness about neurodivergence is growing out there, but many employers and HR professionals still have quite a limited understanding of neurodiversity and how to support neurodivergent employees effectively. So there's definitely a real need for stronger support systems in workplaces, things like changes to the recruitment process and workplace accommodations and the sorts of ongoing support that the workplace can make available. The good news is there's a growing movement towards recognising the value of neurodiversity in the workplace, with more employers becoming aware of the really unique skills and perspectives that neurodivergent individuals can bring to an organisation. And there are now organisations in Australia that specifically focus on supporting neurodivergent job seekers, and they are offering tailored recruitment processes that really recognise their unique needs and strengths. I'm going to list off a few of those companies, and maybe, Rachel, we can make these available in the show notes, links to these organisations, so that for anyone that's interested, they can easily access them after the podcast. So the first company I wanted to mention was called Specialistern Australia. They're not a traditional employer, but they help companies recruit and support neurodivergent talent. And they work with a whole range of organisations to promote neurodiversity in the workplace and help neurodivergent people find employment in fields that match their skills in industries like IT and engineering and data entry. So they're a really good one for people to look at. There's another group called Aspect Capable. So this is a program by Autism Spectrum Australia. And this program supports autistic adults to find employment by offering services like job seeking advice, workplace assessments, and on the job support. And they work directly with employers to create inclusive opportunities. Another program called the Dandelion Program. This is a partnership between the Department of Human Services and DXC Technology, which aims to build IT skills and employment opportunities for NDers. It's a group called Edge Employment Solutions. They're based in Western Australia, and they provide employment assistance for people with disabilities, including neurodivergent individuals, helping them find and maintain meaningful employment. Another program called Job Access. This is a government program, and while they're not exclusively for neurodivergent job seekers, Job Access is a national hub that offers help and workplace solutions for people with disability, including NDers. And they also provide advice on reasonable adjustments and financial support, and they can connect job seekers with disability employment services. The last one I wanted to mention was Untapped Group. Untapped operates various programs aimed at increasing neurodiversity in the workplace, and they work with businesses to create inclusive hiring practices, and they also support neurodivergent individuals in their career paths. There also is a growing number of large companies who are becoming really well known for their specialised recruiting programs, specifically targeting NDers. So companies such as IBM Australia, ANZ Bank, Westpac, DXC Technology, who I mentioned earlier, and SAP. And I wanted to give a quick example specifically to SAP's program. SAP partners with local organisations in Australia that specialise in autism and employment to find, recruit, and support autistic candidates in their program called Autism at Work. And they implemented specialised recruitment processes to accommodate the needs of the candidates, which involved adjusting interview techniques and onboarding processes. And the data from this program was really interesting. It's shown it to be a hugely successful program for SAP. It increased their diversity and innovation. So they were reporting that the Autism at Work program contributed to a more diverse and inclusive workplace. And they're seeing greater creativity and innovation in problem solving and product development. The program results also noted high retention rates of the participants, which indicates successful integration into the workplace and satisfaction among the neurodivergent employees. And specific to its software testing and quality assurance teams, they saw a really significant productivity boost, with some reports suggesting that teams, including autistic employees, could work up to 30% more effectively than neurotypical teams, which is mind-blowing. So SAP has enhanced its innovation capabilities, which is a key driver of long-term profitability. The program's positive impact on company culture and employee engagement has contributed to SAP's reputation as an inclusive and socially responsible employer, which has then attracted more talent and customers. That's a great example of a beautiful virtuous cycle. So I'd encourage our ND listeners who might be in the job market to connect with any of the companies or programs I've mentioned, because they're well ahead of the curve in valuing and supporting ND talent.
Fantastic, Kate. That's a really good list and a really good starting point. I, as an autistic person, coming from it from a different perspective, which is always good because here at the podcast, we're all about celebrating different perspectives. And I suppose from my experience, I've been lucky to have encountered autistic-friendly employers, and they may not necessarily be as prominent as organizations like SAP in creating dedicated neurodiversity-friendly programs, but they are neurodiversity friendly in themselves. They just don't talk about it because they probably don't want to be seen as virtue signaling, or they don't want to be proud and about it because they just think it's just good business practice, which ideally is the ideal world we all want to live in, but that's not always possible. So how do you find these types of companies, I suppose? I think it sort of starts with doing research on their website. They may talk about neurodiversity in their diversity inclusion policy on their website. So that's a good starting point. And even if you don't, if you apply to them and you do get an interview with them, you can ask a question about their culture. Be like, hello, do you support neurodiversity as part of your diversity and inclusion efforts? And if they say yes, and they tell you about what they do internally, that's a really good sign of, an organization that supports neurodiversity. You can also do some research about, are their offices well designed in terms of, do they have quiet spaces for autistic people to recover from if you're struggling with in the workplace, do you have quiet spaces? That's another way to gauge, if they're very supportive of neurodiversity. It's sort of about reaching out and asking those kind of questions, I suppose, that can help you gauge if a company is neurodiversity friendly. So you can reach out on people on LinkedIn and message them, I suppose, and ask them about, hi, I'm, just interested to learn more about the culture of the place. I know it seems like putting yourself out there a little bit, but kind of making those connections and asking people about the culture of the place can help you gauge if they're necessarily neurodiversity friendly. So I guess that's my approach. I know it's sort of a bit bold and a bit scary to do that, but I find that's kind of been really helpful when I've kind of been in that job interview process and asking about the culture and trying to see, are they focusing too much on collaboration and not enough on individual brainstorming time, and then coming back to that collaboration, because that could be better for autistic people. Is it about, do they have flexible work schedules, hybrid remote positions? available? Those kind of questions really can help ND job seekers figure out if a company is neurodiversity friendly. So, Kate, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I just wanted to say, yeah, to agree with everything you just said there, because more and more companies are flagging that they are neuro-inclusive, and a lot of the telltale signs of that culture can be seen on their website, just in the way that they language. They might actually be upfront and really promote that on their website, and just look at their DEI strategies, for example. So hopefully there are some clues out there that organisations are moving further into this space. And so, yeah, great tips from you about how they can identify those organisations. In closing, I just say that it's fair to say there's still a lot of work to be done to make sure that NDers can really fully participate in the workplace and achieve their potential. But I am pleased to see that the landscape is gradually changing for the better. There's more awareness out there now than there was even last year, from my perspective. More resources being made available for NDers and organisations, and more support available for neurodivergent job seekers in Australia year on year. So let's just keep it going.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kate, for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Rachel.